Welcome to Being Intrepid, where we share practical insights from leaders who are shaping the future of talent and learning. I'm your host, Sam Herring. Over the past 2 decades, I've built companies that help people learn and organizations thrive. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Shellie Grieve. Shellie is Director of Learning Innovation and Emerging Technology at ServiceNow. Shelley's a veteran learning leader who's been innovating technology-driven learning solutions for over 25 years. At ServiceNow, she drives learning innovation by scaling skills first, human centered experiences powered by emerging tech and agentic AI, enabling people to learn, grow, and perform at the pace of change. Now, ServiceNow is a global technology company that helps organizations digitize and automate work across the enterprise, which enables people to work more efficiently, deliver better experiences, and drive business transformation at scale. Shellie, welcome to Being Intrepid.
Wow, what an introduction. Thanks, Sam. Great to be here.
So Shellie is joining us from Australia. I'm recording here in Seattle, and we are a global podcast. So Shellie, welcome to the other side of the world from Seattle, our global
Thank you.
community here.
Thank you. It's good to be. It's early in the morning for me, late in the afternoon for you, but we'll make it work.
That's right. She's speaking to us from the future, from tomorrow, from the perspective
Tomorrow.
of those.
Yeah.
Always
We're looking pretty good. Looking
it
pretty good
fits. You're
today.
you're a futurist, Shellie, futurist in learning. So this is
Yes.
good. Um, So Shellie, you've built your career as I mentioned in the introduction, really at the intersection of learning, technology, and always pushing the envelope with innovation. So I'd love to hear maybe an early experience in your career that informs the work you do today as a learning leader. How'd you get started? What was an inspiration for you?
Sure. So I'll date myself here, make myself come across quite old, but back at the turn of the century, quite literally, I was working for a global hotel chain here in
Okay.
APAC, and part of that role was, or a big part of my role back then was IT service desk management. It was at the time where everybody was just getting their first desktops and laptops on their desks. So we were moving away from things like paper diaries and where our sales team would go out with folders of presentations that were
Yeah.
done by publishing companies and things. And so it all started very innocently with a team of people wanting to know how to use their Outlook calendar. And I just happened to be a power user of those tools. And then what evolved is those sessions that I was doing with those people would spread very quickly. And before I knew it, I was rapidly in demand to do these sort of one-on-one or two-on-one sort of sessions. And
Okay.
parallel to that, I was seeing an increase in calls to the service desk for assistance and all of these things. And in short, it led me to take on an initiative where we did a skills assessment of all of those people in our
Hmm.
corporate office. I worked with HR and we sat down and skills profiled out each role. And then I sourced technology to be able to test their skills. And we set about then, I worked on becoming an instructional designer. I became a workforce trainer and assessor and was able to come back and actually write curriculum for all of the modules that we felt that they needed to do their jobs, and then worked out who needed to be in which training and when, and delivered that in sort of micro bursts over a 12-month period, and then rapidly scaled the entire corporate office for that particular company at the time. And it led to curious learners. It led to more inspiring calls coming to the service desk. I was more in demand with that, but it really, I could see the transformation that was happening there, and I was hooked on sort of the idea of working in both technology and in learning, and that's kind of been that, along with transformation, has been the pathway of my career over the last sort of 25 plus years.
Fantastic. So I'm hearing some themes that are timeless there.
Yes.
Skills first, assessment driven, personalized learning, learning over time, a learning journey over a year. These are all themes we're going to dive into, and of course, having an impact on the service desks, that connection to the business. So let's start there. When we think about ServiceNow, it's obviously a technology behemoth that's just been on a rocket ship ride. I'm seeing in the background here, as well as our guest, actually a rocket ship with ServiceNow University behind you.
Yes.
So, um, so so tell us what role learning plays as a strategic enabler for this rocket ship growth that ServiceNow has been on the last few years.
Yeah, I think rocket ship is the right analogy, and I have been here on the rocket ship at ServiceNow for 10 years, and
Yeah.
during that time, the company has had absolute extraordinary growth
Hmm.
and indeed hyper growth during that time, and it's come to the point where the skills in our ecosystem is less than the skills, sorry, the growth that we're seeing as a company, and so we're really needing to ensure that to basically make our customers successful, the adoptions, the implementations, everything within our ecosystem. We need
Hmm.
skilled individuals that can support that. So we have a company-wide employee base of 28,000 employees here that we support. So
Okay.
we fully own everything about our employee journeys from an enablement learning skills perspective. Then we have an ecosystem of millions with our partner ecosystem, but we have more than 40 million active users on our platform globally every
Mm-hmm.
day. So it's about keeping pace with the skills that are needed with that. And so this has really changed from learning being sort of optional to skills growth and acceleration being a strategic enabler and a strategic lever for us to pull.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to have a skilled customer base in order to adopt the ServiceNow platform, let alone partners and employees. So it's so clear why that's mission critical. Um, and so Shellie, you and I met 5 or so years ago, and you were searching for technology to uplevel your cohort learning experience for ServiceNow expert programs, like certification programs. So can you tell us a bit about those programs in particular and some of the challenges you were facing delivering them and what you were seeking to improve at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. So it has been a wonderful 5 years that we've been partnering with Intrepid and been very successful with that. So I'll say that first and foremost up front. So the expert programs that we were delivering, so I think we came to Intrepid in early 2021, and I'd experienced the Intrepid platform through another channel and saw it as a way to provide a single platform for our learners. So prior to that, we had been delivering a very successful program, our most elite certification program, which was a 6 month cohort-based MBA style creme de la creme of the ServiceNow ecosystem certification program. And this was very much designed for peer-to-peer learning. We had live webinars, we had in-person events, we had guest speakers. It was complex by nature and not something that we could scale easily.
Hmm.
But at the core of it, we had two very distinct problems, what I call the back office problem and the front office. So for our learners at any given time, there was a barrage of emails. We were operating out of spreadsheets and PowerPoints and things like that because our LMS didn't cater for that. And then on the flip side, for our delivery team, they were juggling spreadsheets galore, tracking attendance to all these events. They were scheduling things, things were all over the place. And so there was a lot of work on both sides.
Hmm.
So what we really needed was something that enabled us to be world class and scalable and provide a seamless learner experience that enticed them all the way through. And so with Intrepid, we were able to then launch. We actually launched the first thing we launched on Intrepid was our baby brother to the Big Brother program, our Certified Technical Architect program,
Yeah.
and that was a 12-week cohort program that we now sell out 12 months in advance, and we have thousands of learners come through these programs every year. And what Intrepid enabled us to do there was to do exactly that. It was world class and it was scalable and repeatable. Everybody had the same experience. It's fully gamified. We have drip scheduling in there. We have comms that land at the right time in people's inboxes that are very engaging for them to know what is expected of them at any given moment in time. So we've been hugely successful with that. We've been able to couple that with AI assessments. We've been able to put all types of interactive engaging materials in those programs over years and expand that out to a greater learner base just for expert programs.
Hmm. Hmm. And what did you find in terms of what kinds of results you were able to achieve, based on that, but either on the front end or back end, the admin efficiency, what other results did you see?
Oh, absolutely. We could track the savings of human hours from our delivery team. So in the pilot that we ran for CTA, it was incredibly manual, and those people were working extraordinary amounts of hours, and so that we could see
Yeah.
the reduction in admin time by more than 75% of what they needed to do to manage those programs. But more importantly, these programs, to be very clear that even prior to putting in Intrepid, these were already award-winning programs that
Yep.
were high in CSAT,
Yep.
highly well received. We would constantly have wait lists, but when we looked at the anecdotal comments in the surveys and things like that, it was this was a great experience, but this
But
felt a
yeah.
little fragmented and disjointed. And so we saw an overwhelming set of feedback that changed on that as well. So not only did the CSAT increase, our pass rates on our program increased because we were able to provide, we went from one assessment to 14 assessments that we could track and scale
Okay.
using Intrepid. And so we had more visibility of those things. We had higher success rates. But the biggest thing and the biggest change that we saw in all of these programs and continue to see today is that because we can introduce those assessments in week one of the program and it follows them all the way in some programs for 6 months, we see immediate skills adoption in the very first week. So they get feedback on how they're doing, they get peer review, they get facilitator feedback, and we
Yep.
see enormous skills growth and transformation of those skills right before your eyes as you go through those programs.
Excellent, excellent. So there's a clear linkage there between what the business is looking for to drive increased skills adoption in the ecosystem, and you're seeing higher pass rates, higher skills achieved. So that's
Yeah, and higher level of engagements from the
yeah,
students as well. Like one of
yeah,
the wonderful things that we see is that as we show them sort of this first assessment, which may feel a little daunting and overwhelming, they're in a safe place. They're learning in a safe environment. They can
yeah,
practice with their peers. They work in small groups. They get feedback from each other. They can engage async as well as live in these sessions. And so it's that myriad of combination of modalities that we give them and the safe place to work in a cohort group that gives them
yeah,
that unique experience. And you see them sort of scaffold those skills over that period of time. And it builds confidence. I
yeah.
delightful emails from one particular partner that I was working with at a time when used to facilitate these programs. It was, we haven't even got to graduation of this program, and I'm seeing a massive difference in these particular people from being a part of these programs. And so it's that type of feedback that inspires us to keep wanting to expand and do more in this type of way of learning with cohort programs.
Yeah, it's one of the it's a great point, Shellie, and I hear that from other partners as well that traditionally learning programs, if you do level three, evaluation using the Kirkpatrick's model, you kind of look at skill impact applied to the job 30, 60, 90 days or a year out. But in cohort experiences, you're able to see that happening, in real time during the
Absolutely.
experience. So that reminds me of that. So okay, so you had this success with these expert programs like CTA and others, and I understand that I mean this was part of your audience was internal here. You had your own employees, but this kind of you really came across a repeatable learning model for cohort learning that you could use to build different types of capabilities beyond these expert programs. And so other internal programs, came knocking, or you connected the dots on that. So, and I understand these are called academy programs. So, can you describe what the academy programs are for internal employees and what kinds of skills they focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. So our academy programs, sometimes there can be problems, sometimes they're more like programs, but they are tech-enabled programs that are
Yeah.
really cohort style. So they are time-bound, they have skills validation as you move through that program, and they are designed to engage with that peer-to-peer learning. So we have a specific criteria for these programs that they must meet before we approve them to be labeled
Hmm.
as an academy program. And we have about 18 of those sort of
Okay.
running in various stages at the moment. Some are still in build stages, but they are all delivered on the Intrepid program platform. They are tech enabled in terms of the skills assessments as well. So it's not only just here's the platform where you consume the learning, it is the tech underpinning the assessments that we're doing and validating those skills along the way. We have live sessions in these programs. We have async learning, again, badging, all of those wonderful things that we can do with these programs to make them more scalable. So last year, or sorry, the year prior, we had a big merge of all of our L&D departments here in ServiceNow. So we were all very, very separate prior to that. So our external facing team dealt with one things like our
Yeah.
certifications and product trainings, and then internal enablement was a a very different beast and sort of split over two main teams here internally within ServiceNow. And now we're all one team. So we are more than 600 employees in our global learning and development team. And as I mentioned, we're supporting those 28,000 internal employees as part of that. A big chunk of that is sales enablement. So we have a very
Yeah.
specific sales academy. So as you
Okay.
onboard into ServiceNow as a new employee, you will actually join and be part of a cohort learning experience for the first 30
Okay.
days of your employment. We also have new hire programs for early in career programs, people that are coming through engineering rotational programs. We have specific programs for other parts of our engineering organization, other sales personas, leadership programs, etc. So all of those fit into
Okay.
our academy model as part of our overall ServiceNow University offering.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, you kind of created this center of excellence and real capability to develop these expert programs or award winning, we should mention as well. So I'm curious, as you scaled these programs out to these 18 or more different academies, you were working with new colleagues, who were business owners, designers, administrators. So, what challenges did you find in scaling beyond the Shellie expertise to others? How'd you teach others to fish, and what were the challenges, and how'd you overcome them?
So those challenges are every new program that we onboard and approve into the academy model. It's almost like we've nailed down the lessons learned of the things that we went
Yeah,
through with expert programs, and we've been able
yeah,
to finesse that into more repeatable templates and things that help
okay,
those people. Teaching to fish is real. I actually had a call last night for a new program that we're onboarding
yeah,
into this model, and very much it's about don't reinvent the wheel. We have a repeatable
yeah,
model here. We have
yeah,
everything that you are thinking about doing. We have lessons learned in all of that now. So as we grow each new program, I share back examples of those programs to our fellow administrators so that they can see examples how other people are building things out. We try
yeah,
and standardize on the experience for the learner. But
okay,
one of the key things that I observe is that more often than not, these programs have been existing for a period of time, and people
yeah,
have been running and facilitating this no differently to what we did with an expert programs. We ran those programs for years successfully without a platform, but it
yeah,
was fragmented and siloed. And one of the things that I have to repeatedly do is to break the mold of how it was done before. So
right,
if you
yeah,
were delivering these programs and the tools that you had available to you were things like Zoom or Teams meetings, SharePoints, PowerPoints, live sessions, and breakout rooms, we've all experienced that from a learning experience
yeah,
perspective, and particularly over the COVID years. But
yeah,
in with Intrepid, we can blow that right up and reinvent that. So we take those pieces of the puzzles, we take all of the goodness of the, solid curriculum that they have and the objectives of these programs and the goals that they're trying to achieve, and we're able to slice and dice that in a whole new way that builds out an amazing learning experience for the learner, but also enables
yeah,
those delivery teams to function more streamlined so that they can spend their time focusing on the things that matter for the learners as well. And so that
yeah,
shows up more in they can now focus on giving feedback, they can coach more, they can be participating in things. They're not spending their time running onerous reports out of spreadsheets or no reporting at all in some cases. And so moving them on to Intrepid actually enables them to be able to do real-time AI insights on what's happening in their program. And so they can quickly see
mm,
who's falling behind or who's leading the way, who's that top contributor. And so it gives them intelligence on what's actually happening in real time and allows them to focus. And so it's really bringing those people not so much on how to fish, but once you teach them how to fish, it's
yeah,
not just the machinations of building out a program, it's how to then engage and run that program in real time and keep
yeah,
it evolving and working and keeping coming back to the drawing board about how to make the programs better all the time and not just being stagnant in how they're designed. So really is about design, about iterative design, about taking a step back from what you know about a program and actually thinking
mhm,
about, okay, well, my toolbox has grown bigger now. So how do I change the modality? How do I think about these different, does this really need to be a live session that we've done for years? And that's been great. But hey, we could now do that in a 3-minute video and we can lean into AI tools to help us create those things faster and make those things more engaging and more accessible with translation and closed captioning and
yeah,
avatars and all of those things. And so the toolbox for these people is much bigger, it's broader, it's more engaging. The learners expect more from us. And so all of
Yeah.
those things have been possible for us to be able to transform. And that's the key thing, to not only transform, but to reinvent these programs in new ways.
Yeah, yeah, it's so that it demands some curiosity, for a designer to kind of engage and think differently with this, and you've got some incredible resources, for them with that. You mentioned insights around this, so I'm curious with the advent of insights and being able to look at the data across these programs, not just content, but how learners are engaging. What would you say? What's a design decision that you've seen that's kind of come out of that insight data that you've seen is like, wow, this if you make this design move, it kind of separates high impact or high engagement versus others. Maybe just share an example of
Oh.
what the data is telling you about design that's engaging and impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. The key thing that whenever we're onboarding a new program, I have them all pause and sort of get out of the content weeds for a moment and say,
Yeah.
what's the definition of done in this program? How do you know somebody is skilled and validated and finished this program? Like, what is it that's really mandatory that they must take away? And that conversation actually leads me to take them down the garden path of how we badge the program in
Yeah. Yeah.
Intrepid, because you really want to look at, like, if you have 100 tiles in this program of content and somebody skips the first 80, can they still be marked complete at the end of it? Are you still prepared to put
Hmm.
your name on the line to say that person has done that program? And so that's the conversation that I start with. And I say, tell me about your program. What are the goals that you're trying to do? What are the intentional things where you're going to validate skills along the way? How are you going to check that somebody knows more? So instead of, I always say that
Yeah.
these cohort programs are not one-way learning, like e-learning, where you're pushing
Yeah.
content out and sort of somewhat lecturing somebody. When I say lecture,
Right.
like a university lecture, not like
Right.
a parent lecture.
Right.
Whereas a cohort program is very two-way. It's very
Yeah.
bi-directional. It's conversational. You can engage with people. It's not just a one-way platform. And so
Yeah.
with all of this, it brings me around to the badging strategy. And this is where the design shift happens. And so we look at that, and I might take something like a 10-week program and sort of say, okay, well, over the 10 weeks, what do you want them to do? What are the gates and the milestones? And it's all intertwined, but you can time release content Intrepid to line up with those milestones. So if you complete milestone one, then it drops everything that you need for milestone two. And then you
Yeah.
can badge those things along the way. And what that really enables it to do is it enables two things. It enables the learner to focus on what are those milestones that I need to hit. And then
Yeah.
from the delivery manager or the facilitator, instructor, whatever label you want to give them, when they're actually running those programs, no longer are they down looking at the 100 tiles trying to reconcile who's doing what. They're actually leveling up and saying, who's got milestone one badge? Who's missing? Okay, we're at the end of the program. We should all have 10 badges because we've had these 10 milestones along the way. I can
Yeah.
see that 90% of my cohort have them, but what are the exceptions? And so the Insights dashboard allows them to look at that in real time as they move through the program. They
Yeah.
can track who's not where we expect them to be. They can see
Yeah.
who's moving behind that. The insights also inform intelligence around who's going above and beyond, who's in the discussion forums,
Yeah.
helping their colleagues along the way, who are the people that are giving extra feedback in the peer review assignments. And so you can see
Hmm.
the people standing out, you can see the people lagging behind, and now you're managing, potentially a cohort of two, three, 400 people. You're now managing a handful of exceptions that aren't keeping pace and dealing with those instead of
Yeah.
trying to manage everybody down at, sort of the example I gave, the 100 tile level. You're not trying to manage three, four, 500 students times 100 tiles and tracking that. So it really allows the delivery team to focus where they need to focus, but we have very clear communications in our program. When you come into this program on day one, welcome to the platform. Here's what you expect. Here's how to get your first badge. And then we repeat that behavior through the milestones throughout the program. Whatever those badges are called, whatever those milestones are, that varies from program to program. But that formula of actually getting people to teach the students to fish in this instance. Fish for the
Yes.
badge, you get the badge. Oh, you like that badge. All right, let's go for the next badge. And so all of those things allow us to somewhat gamify the experience. It shows them the difference between what's optional and what's mandatory for them to balance their time. And it keeps the delivery team focused on the things that need to be focused on.
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting there, Shellie, where you now have insights given this bi-directional experience of seeing how employees are leading, engaging, performing in the environment, doing the work, really. So I'm wondering, I'm just curious, are you beginning to look at that data? Are managers beginning to look at that data to see, who's a high potential based on their engagement in the learning experience? Is that at all something you're looking at?
Yeah, so we just merged our employee experience into our main ServiceNow University platform and
Yep.
are in the process
Yep.
of doing the same for all of these academy programs for Intrepid. And
Yep.
so we're very close for all of those insights to be sitting in a manager's inbox. But
Yes.
absolutely, I would say there is already a data feed that happens around more at the program completion level, but we are trying
Yep.
to get down to that next
Yep.
level.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we constantly are asked for managers to be able to see particular activity access, not at the,
Yeah.
hey, Shelley's finished this program, that's wonderful, we'll put that on your career plan or we'll tick that
Right.
off your
Right.
career plan. It's
Right.
more down into the granular details. How did Shelley do in that particular role play? How did Shelley do with that particular
Yes.
assessment? And that's where we're not only bringing in the peers to see that, which is great because with that peer learning, they can see examples of the definition of good, and maybe they can see examples
Yeah.
of what's not so good, and
Yeah.
that's subliminal learning in the moment there as well. But managers having access to that insight is part of the goal of the integration that we're doing. It
Right.
is we have certain programs where we have mentors on those programs where they can see
Yeah.
that. We have other programs where we bring in additional facilitators and, if you like, reviewers of those activities. So it's not just the main instructors and delivery teams. There's certain people that come in for some of those milestones assessments. We have capstones in certain programs. And so that information and that intelligence is super critical to be able to paint the full landscape. And that is a huge part of our goal in ServiceNow University, with really that talent signature or the DNA of an individual, knowing everything we can
Yep.
about the skills that you have, the skills that you want to
Yep.
get to, what is the
Yep.
delta, all of that. And so all of these integration works that we're actively doing at the moment is all going towards that mothership of being able to see that information and get to that. So
Awesome.
we are very close. We have elements of that working very well in pockets of what we're doing.
Yes.
But certainly, at a program level, we can see that information. We're sharing that information out with reports and that we're producing.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're thrilled to be a part of this and being able to give people opportunities to practice real skills, master real skills, and then being able to, share evidence of that, into the ServiceNow University ecosystem. Um, we've been talking around AI a bit, with insights and so on. So obviously, ServiceNow is, a leading enterprise AI company, and you're such an innovator, Shellie, leading, efforts to leverage AI, with learning, in the company. So, can you just share a little bit of your vision, your strategic vision for how you think AI is going to change learning of the future, and maybe an example or two of what you're working on today that kind of connects the dots between today and that future vision?
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride. I often say that I'm on the front row of the roller coaster in the role that I get to do here at
Yes.
ServiceNow, both
Yeah.
exciting and thrilling and sometimes a little nauseating because the speed of the technology and the pace that everything's moving, it is really challenging to keep pace. And when you think
Yeah.
that you've landed on a technology or a strategy of what you're going to do, before you even got the ink dry on the purchase order, something else out there is
Yep.
replacing it at the moment. And so I think at
Yep.
the moment, the biggest mistake that I see is people seeing AI as just a productivity hack. Like we're all
Hmm.
been playing around with ChatGPT and things like that, where you can come in and do something a little bit faster and maybe do that. But it really is a strategic enabler for capability that we didn't have before. And I think it's going
Yeah.
to really change how we do things in the learning space as we move forward. We have at ServiceNow in our global learning and development team, we have introduced an enormous amount of AI capability across our
Hmm.
entire tech stack. And that starts with when you think about, all of the products that we ship as a global learning and development team of our size, that it starts from the ground up. Where are we at using AI tools for the design space? Where are we at for the content creation space? Where are we at from broadly from an assessment space, from everything
Yeah.
down to psychometric analysis for our test uses AI. We are using AI to check for cheating and things like that in our exams. We do AI intelligence around skills and things that we're doing, AI interfaces with chatbots. So everything that, there is opportunity everywhere across not just the tech stack, but just when you step back and take a look at all of your business processes and things that you're
Yeah.
doing as an organization, think about your particular organization as a business. Like, how can you optimize at every point and leverage
Hmm.
AI where that makes sense? And I say that from experience with the Intrepid thing. Like, we've been using levels of AI in our partnership with Intrepid and with Bongo for years. And
Yeah.
so, very early stages of machine learning and things like that, you need to know where to use AI and where humans need to matter in that particular
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
So, we have won multiple awards for AI for the learning programs that we have, and they are
Hmm.
always being deeply tied to the human in the loop aspect of that.
Yep. Yep.
But I'm very fortunate I get to play with AI just about every day of the week. Well, I do play with AI every day of the week, but I get to see incredible technology coming down the pathway. At the moment, we're doing
Yep.
some amazing beta tests with industry leaders at the moment on tools that allow us to do the A and the D and the ADDIE design
Yep.
stages
Yep.
of the analysis and design part of that, where in that ADDIE framework, where we can invoke learning science from day one. So it's not about just creating those scaffolds and storyboards faster. It's like, let's do this with intentionality behind what the
Right.
learner needs. Who are the persona that we're targeting this for? How do we reuse what we've just developed here and tweak
Yeah.
it for that persona so it becomes more personalized and pertinent for that learner? So we're doing active pilots with that. We're working with one of the industry leaders around video content. So video is very much moving
Hmm.
away from being similar to what we were saying before with cohort learning. Video is historically been a one-way conversation or a
Hmm.
one-way
Hmm.
way
Hmm.
of engaging with a particular media type, and video is becoming two-way. We're seeing that
Yeah.
with interactivity, with branching, with quizzing, all being part of video where we can capture metrics, and we see very strong evidence that video is more engaging for learners. They prove of that modality more than they do about reading for some, and you should be able to
Hmm.
set preferences and be able to do that. And technology allows us to do those things. So, Sam, you might like to read your content and dive into it. I prefer video. Someone might prefer it in more of a podcast style. So, being able to
Yeah.
adapt to what the learners need with that and have that in a moment of need in the flow of work as well. So, being able to
Yeah.
meet learners where they are, know how that particular person works. And so we're seeing a lot of things that we're doing, but we're moving into this, dominant world of AI role play, and those role plays can be more pertinent to a learner, more personalized to a
Yes.
learner.
Yeah.
And that technology is evolving super fast. And the other big thing or the big thing that I'm looking at the moment is around full content atomization. How do you take your entire library and all this knowledge that you have curated as an organization for years, and how do you blow that up into atoms and have that reassemble itself for that learner
Hmm.
in those
Hmm.
moments of needs? And so
Yeah.
there's some really amazing pilots that we're doing at the moment. There's some really amazing, like I've seen two demos this week that weren't even on my radar that now need to be on my radar yesterday on things that we're doing. So more interactive, leveraging AI to do more interactive assessments that allow you to test out from things
Yeah.
and be able to move forward in your journey faster because you don't have to sit through all of that mandatory stuff that you already inherently know or
Right. Right.
you've brought from somewhere else. I'm seeing things with that. I'm seeing, fun things around the way that we deliver training and how that shows up not only in a learning platform, but completely out of the learning platform and
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
right there on your desktop for you or right there on your phone or however that needs to be.
Yeah.
That is all shifting in seismic ways under our feet right now.
Absolutely.
So that's why I say I'm sitting in the front row of the roller coaster because
Yes.
nothing here is the same day in, day out anymore. We had a
Yeah.
very predictive industry for a long time. L&D
Right.
has been
Right.
leveraging the same kind of tools and technology for
Yeah.
years and years and years, and
Yep.
we can't be complacent with that anymore because it is moving so fast. And
Yes.
it is actually enabling more delightful learning experiences. And I think that's the key to all of this.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the themes that you're discussing are most of which we're actively working on as well. I mean, the content atomization you talked about, makes me think of the personalization, that of learning, on the fly that can be created for that individual learner, and then like to connect to the next one, teed up in your productivity environment in Teams, in Slack, where so it's connected right into the learning environment, which is, like you said, just so exciting to see all the possibilities here. We're in a true renaissance period.
Yes, absolutely.
So if we think back, Shellie, you've got this wisdom that you have garnered over, your career, back to where we started the conversation, to those days when you were helping salespeople optimize, Outlook, to today where, we have this explosion of AI tools. Um, I really consider you, Shellie, on the vanguard with learning, innovation, and technology-driven learning in particular. So, for our audience out there listening right now, that is maybe trying to get started, or figure out like where do I go first with innovating around technology-enabled learning? What would you say and the most important for them to keep in mind, as they're innovating right now in this amazing time?
I think the first is to be curious and to be that
Yeah.
learner yourself. So,
Yeah.
as I said, AI is moving so incredibly fast that it is easy to be left behind. I went on 3 weeks leave last year and came back and felt I was behind in 3 weeks. So, if you're not
Yeah.
jumping in already, you can still keep up and you can still
Yeah.
learn and do those things. And I think being curious is the first thing, but start to look for ways for you as an individual to think about how you can use this in your job, how you can use it in
Yeah.
your life. I use incredible hacks with AI all the time at home that you can
Yeah.
start to see how do you bring that to your day job and do things there. I mean, I use AI all day, every day in my day job as well. So I think you need to look at those things and be curious and follow people that inspire you on places like LinkedIn that you can see where they're sharing those hacks. We
Yeah.
have an incredible Teams channel here at ServiceNow where people share their hacks on the daily of what they're doing. And I find that really inspiring, not necessarily because they resonate with me, but I just love seeing everybody giving it a go. And I think that that's really key. And
Yeah.
in the learning space, it gets a little bit more complicated, but you can start off small. Like, how can I get my instructional designers to all write in the same voice and be consistent? So you can
Yeah.
use AI to check that we're representing the brand. You can use AI to add in closed captions, to draft video scripts. Like, there's all kinds of things where you can lean into AI that are really low stakes, easy, quick wins. And then
Yeah.
at some point when you start to see that those things are starting to stick for people and they're being curious and open-minded to that, you can start to play a little bit more deeply. And I'm very much looking at, like, the role that I play here is I very much try and look at not just those small point solutions or those quick wins. It's like more the higher arching strategy that sits over the top of everything.
Yeah.
And how do you actually pull all of these things together? And when you have a force multiplier like AI, you can actually pull threads on different things, integrate those tools more
Right.
tightly, and have a complete workflow. So no different to what ServiceNow is doing with the
Right.
workflows that they do, thinking about how do we take that workflow that is the L&D engine
Yeah.
at the scale that my team does and actually go from end to end. How do we go from the point where a new feature has been released on the ServiceNow platform and we have content out in 15 languages in the days or minutes or hours that follow that, rather than the lag time that we have had historically, that something
Right.
gets released and then we have to put it through
Right.
the complicated beast that is L&D
Yes.
today or
Yes.
yesterday, and move
Yes.
faster with that. And we are making massive waves on that. We are making big changes in how we do things here, but I think that the biggest changes are still yet to come as we move more down the agentic space as well. And I think that you just really need to start somewhere and keep
Yeah.
going and be curious in everything that you do.
Love that. Love that. So, be curious, get started, with something. And I like also what you said too about tap your community, that community inside your organization, or more broadly in the learning community. So, well, with that, that is fantastic, inspiring, and practical advice, which is our mantra. We want practical advice that learning leaders can apply, directly to their work. So thank you so much, Shellie, for joining me, for telling your story, sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience. Deeply useful to our learners and
Thanks,
listeners.
Sam. Such a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, Shellie, if listeners want to stay connected with you, what's the best way to kind of follow you and your thinking and your thoughts on the future?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm one of the few Shelleys with an IE. So Shellie Grieve, you'll find me on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Awesome. And so to our listeners too, if you found today's conversation valuable and insightful, please, go find a colleague, at least one colleague out there. Take Shelley's community advice and share it with someone who you think it might be useful. And please follow Being Intrepid on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And until next time, as Shelley has inspired us, stay curious, chart your own course, and keep on learning. Thanks so much.